12 years on the force, and Officer Ray Daniels had never called in sick, not once. But tonight, he's on his knees in a filthy, rain-slicked alley with his arms wrapped around a 9-year-old girl who is trembling too hard to even whisper her name. He's already radioed in that he's off the clock, a decision that could cost him everything. Because if anyone finds out he just disobeyed a direct order to protect this kid, he can kiss his badge goodbye. He has no idea her last name is Seagal, that her father is a man who throws villains through windows for a living, or that the crew hunting her sees jurisdiction as nothing more than a line on a map. Ray's beat is the forgotten corner of Long Beach, rusted warehouses, run-down shacks, and the permanent stink of diesel that clings to your clothes. He spots her behind a dumpster, a tiny figure shivering in the cold, one of her shiny Mary Jane shoes missing. The beam from his flashlight makes her flinch, and he sees it, her wrist, swollen to twice its normal size and colored a deep, sickening purple. 4 perfect thumbprints, branded into her skin. The radio on his shoulder crackles to life. "Daniels, drop the stray. We have a pursuit on the 405. Ray clicks off his mic, slips his heavy police coat over her shivering shoulders, and makes a choice. He turns his back on his cruiser and walks away. Rule 1 of his own book: you don't hand a terrified child back to the same system that already failed her once. Back at his small studio apartment, he offers her the only food he has, a sleeve of peanut butter crackers and a chalky protein shake. She devours them without a word, her eyes darting around the room. He gives her the bed and takes the lumpy couch for himself, leaving his body cam rolling on the counter just in case. At 3:12 a.m., a tiny voice wakes him. The girl is whispering into a broken toy walkie-talkie she must have found. "Aunt Lauren, I'm okay. The policeman's big, but his eyes are soft." Ray pretends to be asleep, but he feels something shift inside his chest. He's not just a cop anymore. He's the only thing standing between this little girl and the monster who snapped her arm. By sunrise, the consequences of his choice come knocking. Internal Affairs is already building a case. Cruiser footage shows him ignoring a direct order. His Captain Rourke doesn't mince words. He suspends him on the spot. Badge, gun, dignity, gone. Ray hands them over without a fight, but he keeps the off-the-books Glock he bought with overtime pay. Rules, he thinks, are written by men who've never seen a child's arm bent like a twig. He returns to the alley and digs through the grime of the dumpster. He finds it, a uniform patch, torn from a sleeve, that reads A. Seagal. It's a strange name, but not for L.A. The National Crime Database comes back empty. No warrants, no missing persons report. Finally, the girl speaks, her voice barely a whisper. "They said if I scream, they'll hurt my dad." Then just as quickly, she shuts down again, her eyes wide with the stillness of a cornered animal. A matte black Wrangler with Nevada plates and a bumper sticker that reads, "Peace through superior firepower," barrels into the lot. A woman named Lauren Seagal steps out. She's ex-military, now working private security for the ultra-rich. Her calm is unnerving. Her movements are faster and more precise than any instructor Ray remembers from the academy. She doesn't threaten him. She just looks him in the eye and says, "You kept her alive longer than the whole county could." Together, they search the alley. Lauren's trained eyes spot something Ray missed, a 5.7 shell casing, armor-piercing, cartel grade. Ray's stomach tightens. This wasn't a random snatch and grab, this was organized. Then Lauren drops the bombshell. "Her real name isn't Seagal, it's Seagal, S-E-A-G-A-L. Her father's Steven." Ray starts to laugh until he sees the look on her face and realizes she's dead serious. Steven Seagal is in Japan filming a commercial for an energy drink when he gets the call. 9 hours later, a private jet touches down at LAX. He steps into Ray's tiny apartment, a mountain of a man in tinted glasses, radiating a silence that makes hardened cops sweat. He shakes Ray's hand, a grip like granite wrapped in silk, and then he kneels. He whispers to his daughter in Japanese, and the dam that has held for days finally breaks. She collapses into his arms, sobbing for the first time. Ray stands in the corner of his own apartment, feeling like he's intruding on a private universe. Steven stands up, his face unreadable. "Officer Daniels, you risked everything for my little girl. I owe you." Ray can't tell if it's an expression of gratitude or a warning. He decides it's both. Steven's team of high-powered lawyers unearths traffic cam footage. The video is sickeningly clear. A black Escalade with diplomatic plates pulls up as the girl leaves her ballet class. A bodyguard tries to grab her, she fights back, and he brutally snaps her wrist. At a red light, she makes a break for it, bolting into the industrial maze where Ray found her. Steven's first instinct is to go full vigilante, to handle this himself. But Lauren talks him down, reminding him of the complexities. Jurisdiction, international treaties, optics. So Ray offers a different plan. He'll leak the clip to every news desk and contact that owes him a favor from his years on the force. By sunrise, the footage is everywhere, and a firestorm of public outrage erupts. The political pressure works. Captain Rourke calls, his tone suddenly friendly, labeling Ray a rogue hero. He offers him a detective's shield and a raise, but Ray can smell the city hall bleach from across the room. He turns it all down. "Keep the badge," he tells them. "Give me the resources." They assemble a task force, but every name on the list answers to a politician, not to Ray. So Ray, Lauren, and Steven do it their own way. They build their own squad, a covert team sharing intel and operating in the shadows. A tip comes in. The Escalade is heading for the port at San Pedro to rendezvous with a Panamanian-flagged cargo ship. The official ATF response is 3 hours out. The LAPD wants to sit down and negotiate. Steven spreads a satellite map across the hood of his car. It shows a container yard with 2 exits and a single rooftop vantage point. Ray's gut screams, "It's an ambush," but time is running out. The girl is in her room, drawing goodbye notes with stick figures. The clock is bleeding out. They roll out in a ghost Yukon. No plates, no sirens, no official net to catch them if they fall. Steven is dressed in Kevlar that still manages to look like designer silk. Lauren is on the long gun, and Ray is behind the wheel. A thick Pacific fog rolls in, denser than any studio smoke machine. They spot the Escalade parked beside a massive crane. 3 gunmen with diplomatic badges are loading a large crate stenciled with the word "fragile." Lauren's first shot shatters the main spotlight, plunging the yard into near-total darkness. Muzzle flashes strobe through the fog like cheap fireworks. Ray wrenches the Yukon left, drawing fire, while Steven flows right, all 6'4" of him moving with the lethal grace of water. One shooter turns toward the crate. Steven is on him in an instant, snapping his wrist so fast the man's numb fingers are still trying to squeeze the trigger. Ray tackles another, feeling ribs crack under his Kevlar vest. When the sirens finally wail in the distance, it's already over. The yard belongs to them. The screech of a pry bar echoes in the night. The crate is full of vacuum-sealed bricks of fentanyl, enough to kill half the city. And tucked between the bricks of poison is a single, tiny, pink ballet shoe stained dark red. Ray's knees almost buckle. This is what they wanted her for. She was meant to be the mule, the bargaining chip, the human shield. Steven sees the shoe, and his face becomes as still and cold as a stone Buddha. He speaks, his voice quiet but terrifying. "They don't breathe past tonight." Every rule in Ray's cop brain screams no, but his heart votes yes. They plant trackers on the contraband, make an anonymous call to the DEA, and vanish into the fog moments before the first patrol cars swarm the yard. The morning headlines scream about a historic drug bust and waived diplomatic immunity. There is no mention of the girl, and no mention of Ray. His badge is still in limbo, but for the first time since the academy, he sleeps for 8 hours straight. The city council wants a photo op. The newspapers want a soundbite. Steven Seagal wants silence. They get a closed door, off-the-record hearing. Ray testifies, and no transcripts are made. They offer him his full pension plus hazard pay, hush money disguised as a medal. He looks them all in the eye and makes a single counter-demand. He wants them to fund a 24/7 safe house for every abandoned kid found within city limits. No questions asked, no bureaucratic red tape. The council members gasp at the cost. In response, Ray slides a single photo across the polished mahogany table, the blood-stained ballet shoe. The vote passes unanimously. Ray walks out of City Hall, his badge still missing, but his chin held higher than the Hollywood sign. They meet at a private hangar. The tarmac lit up like a movie set. The girl, now clinging to a stuffed unicorn with glittery hooves, runs and wraps her arms around Ray's waist. "I told my friends all cops are scary," she whispers into his shirt. "I was wrong." He kneels down to look her in the eyes. "Sometimes we are," he says, "but most of us are trying. Don't you forget that." Steven steps forward. Ray expects a handshake, but instead, he's pulled into a bear hug that lifts his boots clean off the ground. As the jet engines spool to life, Ray walks back to his dusty Yukon, feeling suddenly lighter without the piece of metal he once thought defined him. Ray is running a youth gym in a converted warehouse. It's filled with boxing mats, duct-taped gloves, and the sound of laughter. He took zero city money, especially after he told their PR team where to stick their photo ops. His phone buzzes. It's an unknown number from Nevada. The voice is Lauren's, dry as the desert wind. "She wants to visit, maybe take up Aikido. Think you can keep her safe this time?" Ray looks around the gym at the kids of every color and background, all sparring and sweating and learning. He grins. "Tell her the mats are clean, the fists are up, and Uncle Ray's still allergic to rules." He clicks off the phone and pockets it, then shouts, "50 push-ups, you monsters. Then we talk about respect." A collective groan echoes through the gym, followed by a wave of grins. Ray flexes the wrist that once wore a badge, rolls the shoulder that cracked a cartel thug's rib, and realizes he's never felt more like a cop in his entire life. No precinct, no permission, and no fear. One choice, made in a split second in a filthy alley, set off a chain reaction that burned a career, exposed a conspiracy, and brought a Hollywood star to his knees. Ray is still technically suspended, and the city is still spinning headlines, but somewhere, a little girl is safe. She knows that the good guys don't always wear badges, and that taking the biggest risks can give you the biggest reasons to keep fighting. If this story hit you harder than a roundhouse kick, smash that like button, and tell us in the comments what you would have done in Ray's shoes. And make sure you stick around for more true stories that Hollywood wishes it had invented.